All right. So the first one I want to do is called How to Win Every Argument, The Use and Abuse of Logic by the head of the Adam Smith Institute. He goes through a ton of logical fallacies. Without being able to think clearly, you're more subject to be manipulated, less likely to engage in freedom, and more likely to be doing the work of conspirators than achieving virtue in your life. Second book is The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose. In short, violence is immoral for all people, including a group, even if the group is called the government group, the Congress group, the police group, the military group. It's an attempt to apply morality consistently and give a foundation for it. Next, Short Answers to Tough Questions by Mary J. Ruwart. In other words, we often talk a lot about the philosophy of freedom, but how does it work in the real world? If there was no slavery, but everyone starved, would we still advocate freedom? Well, she says we don't have to make that choice, fortunately enough. Next book, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Theory of Capitalism and Socialism. He defines the different types of societies that can occur. One based in the private property ethic and voluntary exchange, original appropriation and contract, socialism being the institutionalized aggression against private property, and communism, as defined by Marx, being the abolition of private property. Whenever the charlatan appears, he always attempts to redefine terms, whether it's freedom, truth, government, capitalism, free market, socialism, coercion, eugenics. They often will attempt to change the way the masses think about things in order to manipulate them further. As far as conspiracies go, the Franklin cover-up, this was by a Nebraska state senator. That goes to show you how evil humanity really can be, and that someone with a lot of clout that we would think of can come out about something and it get no coverage. That was published in the 80s. Bohemian Grove, Facts and Fiction by Mark Dice. Excellent book. 63 Documents by Jesse Ventura, the governor who exposes 63 conspiracies using primary sources. Anthony Sutton gets a bunch of documents by Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt and exposes a conspiracy decades before two Skull and Bones members run against each other. We have primary sources, and we're called conspiracy theorists. We have theories. We don't actually go into the topics. Speaking of primary sources, Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins. This is the guy who started the real investigation into the Fed, motivated by Ezra Pound. Want to know something about the education system? The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Thompson Iserbyt. She's the one who gave Sutton those files. The Lusitania by Colin Simpson. This book is excellent. If nothing else, there is one chapter where he cites a conversation between Sir Edward Grey and Colonel House. Yeah.
Can I put an asterisk on that one?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's the one that everyone cites about the Lusitania, and it has some great stuff in there, including the Edward Grey conversation, which I linked in my World War I conspiracy to the actual part of the memoir. But there's a huge asterisk that goes next to Colin Simpson because, and I'll put the link in the show notes for people who are interested, there's someone who investigated and found, you know, where he's quoting that thing from page whatever of that book. It's not in that book. There's nothing like that in that book. It doesn't say that, and that's not what happened. And he was given the chance, according to this account, he was given the chance to respond to it and completely ignored it, never explained why he cites things that are not in the actual books that he's citing. So there's a huge asterisk that goes next to Colin Simpson.
You know, that's disappointing to hear because I looked at the source, and it's source number 7 on page 275, The Intimate Papers of Colonel House 435.
Yeah.
And I checked that primary source.
Yeah, that one is there, and as I say, that was in World War I Conspiracy. I put that in there, but I got that from the memoirs themselves. Yeah, but there was certain things, the key points of Churchill ordered it on the map here for the Lusitania to go in, and blah, blah, blah. And no, there was no such thing in the book that he's citing.
Oh, well, that of course is disappointing. The reason I mention that book is because there's two things that I believe are true. They do pass the source test. The German government putting the ad in American newspapers, as well as that conversation between Gray and House. I believe the fact that I went through 12 years of school and a couple years of college before being kicked out of 3 without hearing those was just devastating. The First World War, based on a lie as far as American involvement goes. Finally, Day of Deceit by Robert Stinnett. If you go to page, let me look at it here. I believe James has interviewed Robert, and unfortunately I wasn't able to. If you go to page 275, you can look at the primary document that is cited from the Freedom of Information Act that pretty much puts the nail in the coffin of the Pearl Harbor myth. Surprise attack. We were just isolationists. Turns out isolationism doesn't work. We need to have interventionism. That is all I have for you. James, you want to give us your last books?
Yeah, my last several. Corbett Report Radio, episode 50 was my conversation with Robert Stinnett for people who are interested in that. All right.
And I actually have one thing for James that I wanted to ask him. James, you had a episode called The Fake News Awards, which was one of my favorite, in which you go over the case of Bana Alabad. And after watching the video, it appears to be extremely fake, staged, propaganda, whatnot. And you respond with, it's amazing to see how much they hate you. I'm curious what you meant by using propaganda is the equivalent of hating the populace it's used against. What did you mean by that?
I'll have to step into the moment that I said that. So I don't remember the exact context of that, but I think the general gist would be that they... I think the propagandists who are lying to your face in such blatant ways, as you say, you look at that video and you know this is staged. I mean, you can see she's reading it. It's nonsense. The idea that they would expect you to simply believe that, or at the very least to swallow it without spitting it back up, I think that's hatred. I think that they are literally not just insulting your intelligence, they're almost delighting in it. They're kind of rubbing your face in the feces and saying, eat that. You don't do that to someone that you love or care about or are indifferent to. You do that to someone you hate. I think there's a hatred embedded in that, especially when it's at that level of just in your face. This is a complete lie. Now, here it is for you. What are you going to do about it?